Hello, it's Gabs here. I'm just behind the camera this time. In front of us we have Zafir, you may have seen before, and Anna von Freiberg, Minister responsible for propaganda, I think is the title we used.
It's a fluid concept.
It's a fluid concept, like everything that goes on. This one's specifically for Essyltt. Essyltt, you had some discussion about the fact of changing your stance. While both of these fighters use a centre grip shield in regards to it, some of the ideas of regardless of whether you're using a centre grip or a normal shield are very true. Now, this is not the only way to do it. In fact, this is a big experiment for us. There's not a lot of people in Lockhart who actually use this stance particularly much. There are people who've done it beforehand, but there's not a big tradition of it, unlike some other kingdoms. So we're learning as we go. All right. So what I want the two of them to do is basically go to stance and form up on the. So you've got to sort of stance like this. Now, everyone turn around and face the computer. Oh, camera even. Okay, so what we have there is we have an idea of some stance. The light's not so good, but you get the idea in regards to it. They have some subtle variations. Now, a couple things they do with their shield in regards to it. First one is it's very hard to show in this one, but if Suan disengages off, come on, Suan. Now, when she throws something like a snap to Zofia, so come in and throw a snap slowly to where Zofia's shield would be. Don't move, Zofia. Just like that. Come in closer.
Just coming.
Just come in. Come straight to the That's a bit closer. And she throws a snap. You'll notice that she doesn't move her shield. A little bit closer, Suan. Just a little bit. That's it. She doesn't throw her shield. She doesn't move her shield. So she's learned herself, whenever she sees a head snap, not to move. As odd as that sounds, it's very hard. Now you can disengage for a second. You notice that what she's trying to do is she's trying to block it with her leading shield edge still, because that's still the most solid block. Her leg blow, so pretend to throw a leg blow at her. She still has to block her leg. So Suan, throw a leg blow. Lower, a bit lower. That's it. Okay. She still has to block down. Normally when she blocks down as well, she'll put her sword above her across her face to try and block something else that comes up in case it comes a rising one. You'll also notice that she's not doing it this time, but she's also got into the habit of actually kicking her hand out further, because one of our fighters has a habit of turning into a rising wrap. So you put the shield down and you put your arm out. Shield down and arm out. That's it. What that does means that if it's a rising wrap, it'll often catch the edge of the shield to bounce it off. If it makes any sense. Now, offhands. Go to stance, Sophia. Okay, so you got that stance there. For offhands, the point is done in such a way that anything to the offhand will be blocked, normally by not moving. So go in and throw a offhand. Throw an offhand, just slowly. Right, so just something like that, just for the purposes of it. Okay, she doesn't move her sword an awful lot. She's become, if Anna von Freiberg takes a step with her left foot and pretends to go deeper, so pretend you're a bit deeper throwing the blow, okay, she will actually move her sword out a little bit further if she can read it in regards to it. The distances of things, the problems for the positions, thank you, Anna. The position for the problem is whenever she is throwing an offside, it opens up her head to a wrap or something else, because to throw it, you have to drop the point a little bit. But that's the same for anyone who has a sword cover front stance in many ways. They'll have to move their shield up a little bit more to cover their head if they're using something like, if they're using part of their sword or shield to cover their head. So you've got that idea. Moving across there. The other one is, if she goes to stance again, whenever you form up on her, she spent an awful lot of time with us slotting her. Just throwing slots down that line. And I'm just going to get Anna to come in.
Nice.
Yep, let's work up and pretend to throw a slot. Yep. Just a slow slot, yes. Things like that. What we would do is we'd practice throwing blows down that line. You can relax now until it became good. The other thing we'd practice doing is thrusting her where her hip was. So she had to go to guard and then thrust the hip. She had to learn to block there in regards to it. Now, this was a process of attrition. We just did it and did it and did it and did it till she got good. The other thing is we targeted her arm, because occasionally she would wrongly position it like that. Now, and we just hit her in the arm. I mean, it's very hard to do, but what's happened now is we don't get her in the arm very often. We don't thrust her very often in the body, and her offsides are really good. We've got back to killing her with wraps and snaps now, because the obvious open areas aren't, and so we know her style, so we know where the weaknesses are. Now, that's just through a period of experience. You'll notice that when she puts her hand forward, she goes a forward stance, but notice that, it's hard to see, but her sword blade is actually going backwards, because what we found is that if you put your sword point forwards, It's actually, you have to move it backwards to throw a blow. Whereas if the sword point is backwards automatically, you can roll with a snap straight forward. That's one of the great successes that we found with this style. Even with my sword forward style, I had my sword actually going backwards because I find I don't have to move it backwards to go forwards. Sophia has also spent time on the Pell learning to power forwards rather than have her sword go backwards and forwards, which can be a little bit more complicated as well. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get the two of them on the Pell. They're going to put down their shields just for the time being. And we're going to drag the Pell forward. And this is going to show how they practice the blows with a different stance in regards to it. A bit more forward. There we go, that'll do. Okay, so start with you first in regards to it. Come forward inside. Okay, so she goes to stance without a shield just for the purposes of this in regards to it. So she instinctively, when she's on the Pell, she puts her hand forward to represent where her hand is approximately going to be. Even if she's just trying something new, she always just puts her hand up rather than a shield, especially if she's trying something new. And so what she does is she now practices on the Pell by punching and rolling. See if you can see here. There you go, see forward. Okay. Now, she'll often, you notice that she does right leg forward. That's a particular style she feels most comfortable and found that her hip works the best in regards to it. But what that's given her done is also compensated for a range. It's actually given her a couple extra inches on range that she wouldn't have against tall fighters like myself and Thomas and Edmund and other people. That's what she's got used to. We tried her on both styles, both legs forward. She found her hips worked better with her right leg forward. So, obviously she's going to do a lot of movement. So what I'll do is get her to take a couple steps backwards, one step backwards, and then she practices on the Pell moving forward in stance. So she's on stance. Yep. Or she goes to stance where she is now. Stance now where she is now, and she'll take a forward motion from there, throwing blows. Yeah. So just go forward practicing blows from that stance in regards to having that stance forward. Yep, and just simple motions like that one. On the Pell she practices it, on the idea she practices it. Now, Anna, come in. Around the other side where Sophia was. Yeah. Now, we'll get Anna to do raps in regards to it. Anna's only recently authorised several months ago in regards to it, but we've been training her up in this style because we found it works quite well. She has the habit of, she has a very similar position. She uses slightly different stances a bit closer in regards to it, but she does this, you'll notice that she has her different leg forward. She actually works with a different leg forward than Sophia does. So for her, it's a much more traditional take a step, throw a snap. Yep, and it's just a simple process like that. Whereas, because Sophia's got that other leg forward, she's having to learn it in a slightly different mechanism. But, you know, it works very much the same. Just throw some blows. Yep, and it's just a very simple thing. Now, that's just a very simple overview of this, and there are people who are vastly better at it than I am. But what it does do is will hopefully give you some ideas of some stuff to work on. There are people who are much better at it than we are. But what we'll do is we'll have a chat as Essyltt about it over time, and we'll figure out what we're going to do. Any closing comments, as odd as it sounds, from Sophia? Come in. Any suggestions you have from that style? Being you're the person who uses it more than me, and mine are just observations.
Well, for me, for power generation, it's very important to use the core muscles, so really crunch your core muscles down when throwing a blow. I found that really helped with my power generation along with hitting the power. But that's probably the big thing. Your arm will probably get, well, that's more a side effect of my shield. Your arm gets tired with the centre grip, but if you're not choosing to use that, then it won't be as big an issue.
Probably the other thing that we had discovered, as you said, her core muscles, unlike sword high stance, if you can put your sword up high in regards to it, like this, what happens is your arm follows and it's like your hip rolls and your arm goes forward. But for Sophia's style, in regards to it, it's more like you're powering from low, you're powering up high and low and through. So you're not doing that classic arm above your head, hitting things around up high. What you're doing is you're coming in from, that's got a stance again, you're coming in from that lower section and going forward. All right, and we've run out of time. Thank you very much.